Hi, I'm Frankie Lee. Welcome to the Blues Kitchen.
Frankie Lee has just released his second LP, Stillwater, via Loose Recordings. We caught up with Frankie in the middle of his European tour. He tells us about raiding his father's record collection as a kid, playing 4-hour live sets while still only in his teens, and returning to his hometown after 10 years in Texas and Los Angeles. Frankie also performs a knockout cover of Good Time Charlie Got the Blues, originally by Danny O'Keefe. And while you're watching, like this video and subscribe to the channel for regular episodes of The Blues Kitchen Presents. Frankie,
Damn.
man, welcome to The Blues Kitchen.
Pleasure. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Let's start off with congratulations on Stillwater.
Oh, yeah.
You have to squint, you know that is your face.
Yeah, there was a reflection. Yeah.
Brilliant record, man.
It's still a shock to see it. Yeah, it's very nice. It just came out, so every
It's
time I
like
see it, it's
4
kinda-
days old, right?
Yeah.
I was quite lucky because the fine people at Loose sent this over, so we've been spinning this for the last few weeks.
Right on, man.
I know all the crew here have been listening a lot as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe I'm getting the wrong end of the stick here, but it sounds kind of like a little bit of a concept record-ish.
Ish,
You know,
yeah.
in the sense that Stillwater's your hometown, which you went back to record in, but you spent time in Austin, you've lived in LA, is that right?
Yep.
Nashville?
Yep.
And gone full circle back to this hometown that you love and hate
Yes.
to make this record.
Yes.
So maybe you could tell us a little bit about how this came to be.
Yeah. Well, all that's true. That's a lot of places in between. But I left, like everyone does. Like, you know, you leave Norwich or you leave Stillwater, wherever you're from, and then the time that it takes, which I think you just have to go. And so for me, yeah, I was gone for about 10 years solid. You know, other places, like you said, Austin and LA, and some places in between. But I started to come back around because of family, really, which obviously that's kind of why I ended up there in the first place. You know, I wasn't like 6 years old
Because
and moved
you
the
were born
family
there.
to Stillwater. I was born there and raised there, and so I came back and started to get into that. I started working on a farm and started to look at the town differently, not so much as a kid anymore, but just as the adult after all the changes that happened, and you know, some things are a lot more, you know, shocking and come to light, and then a lot of other things you just missed. You didn't have the experience to see it or enjoy it or actually just let it be what it is. And I think, you know, there's a lot of places where you can be from in America. It's such a massive place, but I'm grateful actually to be from there, and it's still a beautiful place. It's just in nature. It's this beautiful part of the Midwest where it's kind of the beginning of the Mississippi River. It's called the St. Croix River Valley. So it's these huge bluffs, and they just crash down. And basically, the town I grew up in is between these two hills,
Right.
and it's just right on the river. And so, you know, we'd be skateboarding down the hills every day, or you know, jumping off the bridge into the water when you're a kid. You don't think about it, and then you
Sounds
go
like
to
heaven.
It's really.
Don't moan about it. It sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
I know. I don't want to rag on it too bad, but then all the other things, you know, there was always cops arresting us and developments and strip malls and people getting priced
What
out.
were you getting arrested for?
It's just skateboarding downtown, man. Yeah, I got arrested once for they said I was trying to pick CDs out of a car, but I was just looking at, remember when Mustangs came out? Like a Ford Mustang came out, and I was just so fascinated by it that I'd never seen one before. But I was young, and I was just staring into the windows of this car, looking at a really nice car that I'd never seen before, and a cop pulled up. I was like, I don't even have a CD player. I'm not trying to rip anything off. Anyways, this cop, just small town stuff.
So at what point did you pick up a guitar? Because I understand that you kind of really just absorbed, was it your old man's record collection? And had an acoustic guitar off him and just let it all seep in, basically.
Exactly, yeah. Well, it's funny because I grew up around music. My mom she sings old Carter family songs, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's great. She's a really, you know, she's too humble. How people are like, you know, they're too good and they don't know it. And you could never get them in front of people to do it. But she would sit around the house and sing, you know, Carter family and Bonnie Raitt songs, and loved all that old stuff. Yeah. And my dad was more of like, I mean, now you'd probably call him like an audiophile or something. He was always going to record bins and pulling out like Sleepy John Estes or Snooks Eaglin, or he had all this he'd always go to New Orleans and come back, and obviously I didn't know what was going on, but as I got older and found out, I was like, wow, he's got really, really eclectic taste all over the map, but really good, deep, like crazy records that he had. And so that's kind of after he passed, that's kind of how I got to know him, to be honest. He didn't have any money.
Because he spent it all on records.
Yeah, he spent them all on records. But he had a couple instruments and a book and a record collection. And so his friends that he used to play music with kind of took me under their wing. A guy named Slim Dunlap, who played with the Replacements, but also has his own records, which are really great. They just kind of absorbed me into their scene and would take me into bars as a kid, 14, 15 years old. And
so I understand that you were playing like 3 or 4 hour sets in your teens.
Yeah.
And was this, I assume you were just doing all covers at this point?
Oh, yeah, completely.
That's pretty mad though.
Yeah, it was.
In this country, like, if you're in your teens, someone might let you get up and play like 4 songs as an opener for something or something, but you're playing like 4 hour sets at this point?
Yeah. Well, I think that was pre, digital jukebox. I'm sure they would have rather had something else. Kind of pre-DJ too, where they were like these old guys who would play like top 40, and they were probably hard to deal with in some ways because they're like, they want full gear and like a Styx cover band and tons of keyboards, and we just came in like a Nirvana setup with drums, bass, and guitar, and they basically let us practice on stage every weekend because once people have a few beers and there's somewhat of a rhythm, it's like
So we're in.
Yeah, we'd sneak in different covers and stuff to see if it worked, but it just turns out that they just needed live music.
Sounds incredible.
So
Sounds like you've made it sound like the best small town in the whole of America.
I do work for the tourist board. So I should say that. Yeah.
You played a cover for us earlier on as well, which we should maybe talk about a little bit as well. So, Good Time Charlie Got the Blues, which is it Danny O'Keefe?
Danny O'Keefe, yeah.
Who I must admit, I don't know at all. But Elvis also did the tune as well.
Did it. Waylon, I think, did it.
Oh, Waylon Jennings did it as well.
Yeah. I think it was back in the day when there was a song, it was everybody just cut it.
Right.
Like even some country guys cut their own songs twice.
Yeah.
There's like certain George Jones songs that you're like, is he singing? Is this the 4th version of The Race Is On? But they just, it was like a different publisher would buy it and cut it again.
Away again.
Cut it again, George.
But what was your first kind of introduction, if you like, to that tune?
Early on, same thing. My dad had the record cover looks crazy. He's dressed like Daniel Boone. It's the weirdest, but like, the cartoonish drawing. Yeah. Nice, whoever the artist is. Much respect, but it's a very strange album, so I picked it up. It's kind of like Tea for the Tillerman, like Cat Stevens' record, where it's very warm and welcoming, and it actually fits the sound. And so I had heard his version. He kind of sounds like Fred Neil a little bit. If Fred Neil would have been more kind of I guess he was kind of country, but folk. If he was pushed a little bit more into the country vein, and so I love that music. It reminds me of like some of those Van Morrison records or Bobby Charles records where they just kind of worked everything. There's horns or maybe a steel guitar, or there's some harmonies in the back, but it's it's a solid tune, and I've just always had that in my head of something that would be fun to do, so I figured I'd do it here.
I always like to ask people as well, is there anything in particular that you learned from that artist or that song? Any tricks that you might have stolen?
Yeah, it's crazy. He does something in that song which is really cool, where there's a melody line on the guitar going the whole time, and then it sets up where you think it's going to be a chorus, and he actually just opens it all up, and the tempo just drops out. It's the some gotta win and some gotta. It's this really nice release.
Yeah.
Which, now modern kind of music or stuff you hear, it's just you can just tell the setup is like, let's amplify it. Yeah, everybody's just trying to kill it with the chorus, and obviously that works. But it shouldn't just be one formula, So J.J. Cale's like that too. They set something up, and you're like, your jaded musician brain goes, "Here's the chorus again," and then all of a sudden it drops out. The tempo completely goes away. It's just the voice, and then the band slowly brings it. It's like, oh.
I reckon it's time for some music from you, if that's cool.
Yeah.
If you'd be kind enough to introduce your performance.
This is Frankie Lee, and it's my version of Good Time Charlie's Got the Blues by Danny O'Keefe. Well, everybody's gone away. They said they're leaving for LA. I'd like to settle down but everybody's leaving town. Some caught a freight, some caught a plane. Can't find the sunshine, leave the rain. They say this town wastes your time. I guess it's right, it's wasted mine. Well, some gotta win and some gotta lose. Good time Charlie's got the blues. Well, this old heart keeps telling me you ain't a kid at 33. You stay too long, you lose your life. You play too long, you lose your life. Well, I got some pills to ease the pain. Can't find a thing to ease the rain. You know I like to settle down, but everybody's leaving town. Well, some gotta win and some gotta lose. Good time Charlie's got the blues. Good time Charlie's got the blues. Good time Charlie's got the blues.
Subscribe to The Blues Kitchen for live performances and interviews with the hottest blues, soul, country and roots musicians in the world today.